Hello and welcome to another We Are Developers Live. It's Wednesday again. I'm still in the office in Vienna. That's why I'm in this nice lit thing and not like the bit that I normally have at home. And I mean, if I just start cleaning my room, I could use the higher resolution camera as well, but I normally can't be bothered. That's the problem with it.
Chris, we've said this before. You've only got to clean the little bit before, in a little bit that's actually on camera. The rest of it's chaos. But as long as this bit looks nice.
I told you my flat is the little bit on camera. Like I don't have more space than that. So how have you been? How have you been other than like painting roundabouts and stuff?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, isn't it? That's the thing we've kind of been in the news for in the UK is painting roundabouts. But yeah, I've kept out of that. I've mostly been doing what we've been doing for the last 2 months, which is going through the metric ton of video content we've had from the World Congress and from all of the shorts that we've had for the last 2 years, trying to put all of that together. So yeah, I've been deep in video world, but we'll get to that, a little bit of that later, actually, in the headlines.
Yeah, and you created a spreadsheet that you sent to me earlier, and I was just like flabbergasted because it had colors and different fonts and stuff and formula, and it was just like, wow, I was really impressed by that. And then you said that Excel got you into coding.
Yeah. It's funny actually, because in my previous life, I was a teacher and I was writing reports that you always have to do. Now, my students, for context, were 18 years old. So these reports were not really going to go anywhere. They were going to be kept by them. They don't go to parents. But we knew we had to sort of do it for the students. And we thought we were spending about 45 minutes per student writing a report. And so when you've got 18, 20 people in a room, that's 20 hours that you're going to spend, or sort of, somewhere between 10 and 20 hours. So I made a spreadsheet that effectively allowed me to sort of enter data about the student. So their name, their nickname, because they maybe would use a different name, their gender, because they might go by a different gender to what's on the paperwork. They might, all this information. And then we would essentially have predefined paragraphs that you would just insert the nickname into, or the student's name and the gender, and they would be descriptive. So it might be, this student's got excellent attendance, but they're not so good on the creative side, or the paperwork they're not so good at, or whatever it might be. And then it would just collate it all together at the end, just concatenate everything. And I realized that I could write a report for 19 students in about 19 minutes. It was about a minute per student. So then I thought to myself, well, I'd love to make this like a website or something that other teachers could use. And initially it was going to be a sort of internal tool, and teachers were saying spreadsheets are too complicated. And I thought, well, everyone can use a website. So yeah, I learned how to code, to actually build that, and just learned it kind of bit by bit, building whatever I could, whether it was the UI or the logic or whatever, and then learned back end. So I could, as much back end as I needed at that point to just get a simple kind of database together and do API calls. And yeah, I slowly learned bit by bit building that. And then as soon as I had it ready, where I thought, oh, shall I launch this? And I thought, well, it's not really to be launched. It's just to be used by teachers. So they did. They used it as an internal tool. We made reports. We could mail merge as well at the end and put it in the students' Google Drive and all sorts. And yeah, it was definitely the thing that got me hooked on programming, was actually solving like a real world problem for myself.
Yeah, I remember one of my first jobs was an Access database, and basically they copied and pasted it into HTML templates by hand, and then I just wrote a button that basically did it in Visual Studio and Visual Basic, which I didn't know back then, but it was such a weird, like, in between English and programming language, much like AppleScript, like you take the worst of programming and the worst of English and you make one language out of it that is really convenient.
Yeah.
And but it was basically 2 weeks of normal work for the company became one button. And I think that is what programming is to me, like solving problems and automating stuff, not like programming and coding for the sake of creating code. It should solve a problem and increase convenience.
Yeah, and I think the criticism that people were giving me at the time was, they were saying, oh, but if you're just doing these kind of drop-down boxes with pre-made sentences, then it's not really bespoke for the student. And I was saying, well, they will think it is bespoke because it's got their name just in the string, okay? But it's the fact that you had all the different varieties of student, and you're saying, well, most of them boil down to kind of one of 10 drop-down boxes, And when you read those reports, I would say to the students, like, was it useful for you? Did you actually get good feedback? Because what I didn't want was them saying, I can tell this was just like a predefined thing because it looks the same as the person next to me. But it didn't look the same because there was obviously 10 different drop down boxes and then 10 different options for each of those. So there's a lot of variety. But yeah, it was, for me, it was that balance between actually solving a problem and it not feeling like you had just made something automated and then lost the kind of the point of it.
Which brings us to our guest today, because we have somebody here who actually helps people do like live coding and show live coding without errors, and we've seen it all happening on stage. So today we have as a guest Elio Struyf, who's coming to us from Belgium, right?
Yes, that's correct. Near Antwerp.
Yeah, nice. Friends of mine just were at a wedding in Antwerp, and they basically said a Turkish wedding in Antwerp. So that was like an interesting mix of food and things. So yeah, Antwerp is hard to define, isn't it? Like a lot of people don't know about like where it is and what it is. They just know it about diamonds. So how many of them do you have?
Diamonds, sadly none of them. But yeah, Antwerp is known for diamonds indeed.
Yeah, when I in one of the other shows, I was talking about that that we had live demos on stage and they went wrong, and people then I assume somebody that you paid a lot of money said like I should take a look at demo time to actually make sure these things work out properly. So what is it that you're actually working on? I mean, you're doing several things that you are passionate about, but what is your main role right now? What do you do?
Yeah, so my main role is actually I'm a freelancer for multiple companies, most of the time product companies, where I do end-to-end tests, making sure that everything is smoothly going through their CI/CD pipelines and that they ship with quality to their end customers. So that's my daily job. And besides that, I love to do or creating tools that I most of the time think to make my life easier, but sometimes it makes my life more difficult because I have so many creative ideas, I think, that it brings too much ideas, too less time. So it all needs to fit in my day. So 24 hours is not always enough.
And it's all about like, we're going to have a demo of the demo time thing later on. And I mean, you said you're very passionate about extensions for VS Code and extensions for browsers as well, I assume?
I did less with browser extensions. Most of the time, I love to work with Visual Studio Code extensions. And nowadays, it can also be Cursor and Windsurf. But yeah, definitely VS Code. Sorry?
It's the same code. It just puts AI on top of VS Code.
Yeah. Indeed. But some of the people just don't know it. But yeah, I'm a developer by heart, and I live the whole day in Visual Studio Code. So that's also why I want all my tools there. Like a couple of years ago, I moved my blog from WordPress over to Hugo. And I didn't have a CMS back then, so I built myself a CMS within Visual Studio Code. And that's how I got somewhat addicted to creating extensions within Visual Studio Code. It's so easy, so quick. So
I have to dig that up again. I spoke at the VS Code Day years and years ago, like years ago, 3 years ago, or 4 years ago, or something like that. And they had the backstory of Visual Studio Code, like how it became such a success so quickly and what they've done. And the main trick, and that is something that I think every other piece of software can learn from, is like make the core work really well and then invest in a good extension API. Because the idea was VS Code is like a really good text editor, really fast editor, not as fast as Z because it's basically hardware accelerated and all the kind of stuff, but it's accessible. It basically uses the DOM, but it's still really fast. And it allows you to actually do whatever you want with a good defined API to write extensions. And that's why it became the IDE for Python developers, for Ruby developers, and not only for JavaScript and TypeScript people. So it basically, they got a free community by writing a really good API for extensions. But then, as I said, Windsurf and other people, and also Google with their whatever it's called, the AI Studio. They basically said, like, we have to fork Visual Studio Code because it doesn't allow us to do the things that we want to do. So there's a limit to that kind of stuff at the moment. But it's very interesting to see that I have to dig that keynote up again. It was really, really good to basically show, like, if you build software, think about the extensibility, think about documenting that as well, because that's a really good opportunity to get a community that you didn't even think about yet, much like what you do. But we have a few resources that we just want to chat with you about as well before we go into the demo, and I'm gonna bring those up now. And yeah, the first thing that we wanted to say is we partnered with Amazon. So there's basically the AWS reInvent is happening on December 1 to 5th in Las Vegas, Nevada. So if you don't want to have cold European weather and you're actually thinking about going there, that's a good thing to do. There's also a QR code, which I challenge you to scan and see if it works. But yeah, basically this is what's happening here. I can zoom that in a bit if you wanted to, so we can, oh, that was the wrong screen to zoom. Hang on. I can zoom that in a bit. So if people want to give it a scan, and that's basically an interesting event to go to, and there's going to be more information about that one on the blog soon as well. I've been to conferences in Las Vegas and always cracks me up because it's such a silly town. It really doesn't exist. It's like, I mean, we had Firefox 4 we released back then and came in and said, like, we need 700 hotel rooms by tomorrow. Is that okay? And they're like, yeah, small potatoes, no worries. Really not an issue at all. Or I was at an Adobe event where I was a speaker and I got in there, went directly to the mixer, looked around the city a bit, and then came to my room at like 3 a.m. and they had given me this huge gift basket with like fruit and free drinks and everything in the middle of my room. And I'm like, okay, so I invited random people in to just basically get rid of that stuff. So that was a bit of excessive thing back then. Events changed since then, I think, but it's Las Vegas is a very weird place. And even if you don't want to do the gambling, which you shouldn't because it's fucking silly, you probably have a good opportunity to see, for example, Cirque du Soleil shows, because they were like a tenth of the price that I would have paid in London. So that was really good. So take a look at that AWS reInvent. There might be some really cool, interesting stuff in there as well. But I talked about quickly about extensions and stuff. And one of the things that was in the headlines in the last few days was Perplexity's Comet AI browser. And with that, basically all those AI browsers that we have right now that do agentic things for you, that basically you tell the browser to go and find the cheapest flight on like 12 different websites and then book it for you and give it your credit card details. And somebody, like some researchers basically got the Comet AI browser into buying fake items online. So they set up a fake Walmart phishing site and the robot fell for the phishing site, which is exactly why we do captchas and basically tell people not to do things. So what is your stance on allowing the browser to do things on your behalf and scroll things and click things and buy things? Have you done that yet? Or is it something that you also are wary of? Or Elio?
Yeah, actually on my end, I have a task for demo time to look into automating the browser there as well. So it's a very interesting thing. I have used OpenAI, don't know what it's called, but they also allow you to run some automated tests straight from within OpenAI or ChatGPT. It's interesting, not sure where it's going. I don't see myself using it right now. I just tested it for creating myself automated end-to-end tests. So that I could just copy paste it like the Playwright MCP server. I wanted to experience the same thing. Didn't come up with any good logic yet, but yeah, we are still at the beginning of these kind of things.
Dan, what about you? Did you do any booking or anything with it yet?
No, I wouldn't trust it. I think I was going to ask you, Elio, and it's funny because you answered right at the start saying I wouldn't do it myself. And that was kind of my first thoughts as well, is I thought, yeah, it's exciting, you know, in the idea of the potential of it in the future. But I just feel that, you know, when we use AI and we're asking it very simple questions and we're getting hallucinated responses, I don't really want to trust something to hallucinate when it's spending my money. Because I feel like, you know, booking a holiday is kind of complicated enough and you have to do all of this kind of really thinking about it in reality of, okay, we're going to get there at 9 a.m. Do we want to get there at 9 a.m.? And AI is just going to go, this is cheaper, booked. And, you know, it might even make kind of things that don't make sense to us, like booking something that's, I don't know, got a giant, you know, kind of layover in the middle, because it just says, well, that's fine. You can wait for 20 hours or whatever. Yeah, I wouldn't trust it.
Yeah, that premature optimization thing is an interesting one. I caught myself the other day when I was at the airport at like 6 a.m, and I'm like, okay, I saved my company 50 euros by getting this early flight. And then I realized, as there was no public transport in the morning, I had to get a 30 euro taxi and I had a 20 euro coffee in my hand. And I'm like, okay, I didn't save the company anything. You know, this premature workflow optimization is kind of a worry by me as well here, which is also, I mean, the browsers that do that for a living is one thing, but there's also a lot of extensions cropping up right now, especially for Chrome. And Anthropic has this one that actually clicks things around, and it actually says it's browser hijacking concerns because it does much more. And giving yourself access to your browser is basically like giving away your identity to a degree. I mean, there's like all kind of like a password stored in there, credit card stored in there. I'm about to fly to the States in October, and I really don't want to take my own phone with me because they're prone to actually check your phone on the border now. And I'm like, I'm sorry, my fingerprint is on that thing. My whole credit card details, my whole banking history is on that thing. Maybe we should be thinking about not putting it on in browsers or on the mobile phone, but it's just too convenient, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I see a use case there. Well, if you build yourself an app that automatically scans for the birthday of your partner and then buy something online, then at a certain point, the mailbox or the mailman delivers something like, "Hey, honey, I got you something." What? I don't know. AI did it for me.
And then when that didn't work out and you have an argument because you didn't think about yourself, hey, I can find you a new partner. That's the other option.
That's the next step. Yeah.
There is actually a big thing that people fall in love with chatbots and stuff. And I mean, I didn't put it in there, but Meta got into hot water for making like a flirty chatbot of celebrities, of like Taylor Swift and stuff. And yeah, it just feels so seedy and wrong to just get people into an infinite loop talking to a machine. But the bigger problem here is that actually I see that browser extensions has always been the bane of my existence when I worked in browsers, because they give you great functionality. They actually give you good ideas what the browser should do out of the box. But at the same time, they were also the number one resource for security attacks and performance issues. So allowing an Anthropic extension to click everything on your behalf is a bit like what a malware extension would wanted to do in the past, like a YouTube downloader. There were lots of those that actually in the background clicked captures and did things for you. And it feels like it's really giving too much power to those things. There's also this like, there was one browser extension that turns 1 million browsers into web scraping bots. And I think it was also a downloading extensions or something like that. So it feels we're kind of given up on trying to make the browser secure by allowing extensions to do too many things. And we had that with Google's AI on device stuff. There's lots of JavaScript APIs that allow you to do things on device. But right now, they're not allowed in the browser, but only in extension. And I feel like then you might as well do it in an app. It feels weird to get an end user to install an extension, not in a browser. That's a huge step. And a lot of people don't do that unless there's something really beneficial coming from it.
But shouldn't the browser then come up with a sort of sandbox that these kind of extensions can play in?
But that's the point. Like if you're in the sandbox, then they can't do the things they want to do. So sure. I guess that's the problem. Like, I mean, the how do you automate what you do by hand with a machine when you can't do it that way? It feels kind of wrong. So I don't know. Yeah, but it's an interesting one. The other one that scared the hell out of me is actually that Meta seems to be scanning your phone's camera roll to actually train their AI, unless you actually turn it off. And there's an extra setting in WhatsApp, I think it is, in the Facebook app itself. And I think there was also bits on WhatsApp. And I think this is just unbelievable. Like, I mean, this security by obscurity, that basically we do it, but we give you a chance to turn it off. So we're fine, right? But I'm like, nobody asked you to actually scan my photo roll, which is in a different app. And I mean, the chat GPTs and the Geminis and all the others do that as well. Like, there's a lot of automating your phone with AI right now, and that really worries me again, because I take a lot of pictures of like boarding passes, credit cards, all kind of stuff that is in my photo roll as well.
I mean, I wonder if this is really anything new. I mean, sorry, Chris, I cut you off then. It's just, I just don't know if this is anything new, you know, because I remember back, when would it have been? Around 2010, aging myself there, but I was finishing uni. And I remember it sort of becoming news that everybody had discovered that they'd actually finally, somebody had read the Facebook terms and conditions, you know, and they'd done that, that kind of piece of information that was going around the internet about, in those terms and conditions, it says that when you upload something to anything owned by, at the time, Facebook, you no longer own it. And it was because there was somebody, I think, that had tried to sue Facebook, or they had at least complained over the fact that their images were being used in TV adverts. And they were saying, I didn't give you permission to use this photograph. And Facebook were like, well, you did, actually. You just didn't read it. And so I think this just feels like the same thing. It's that we all just tick terms and conditions, but we're actually giving up. Again, we're probably overlooking the security concerns because we're going, oh, cool new feature, exciting new thing that does something. And even if you just want to play with it, you know, you're probably going to click agree in order to just play with it and then never use it again. But there's something in there, you know, extracting all of your data. And I'm sure the EXIF data and things like that will all be taken from those images. And it's scary, but I don't think it's anything new. And it's just a continuation of what we've always seen. That's what I feel.
Yeah, for sure. I remember that there was a startup in London that basically had in the end user license agreement, the EULA, they had a paragraph in there like, if you can read this, call this telephone number and I give you £100. And basically, it took like 5 years for somebody to find it. It just shows nobody reads the terms and conditions. It's just a matter of like, it's a cover your backside in terms of legally, but it's not really a thing. Which brings us to the weird geek thing of the day. I did that on LinkedIn, where basically I asked people what the turbo button is about and if they remember it. Because there is this like, oh, are you that old that you remember that thing, which I find is really ageist to a degree, like when people show like Windows XP screens and stuff. But this one always flabbergasted and confused me as well. Like back then, like, what is the bloody turbo button about and why would I ever turn it off? Like, I mean, if it's faster, then I want to make it faster, right? It can't be like memory, it can't be like electricity or kind of things. So I got like 100 comments on that one, and I think it's like 16,000 views. So, I mean, we talked a bit about it before, but what do you think was the purpose of that turbo button?
I always press both of them. I turn it on and then push the turbo button.
So okay. You remember it? You remember it, Elio? Because I don't remember it, and I'm in my mid to late 30s, and I don't remember this at all. And I think it's rare that I come across something like that I think I have no recollection. So, Chris, without aging yourself there, what sort of time frame was this? What kind of computers? Because is this black screen, orange text, Windows 95?
1994, 1995 kind of thing, like the first PCs. I mean, I came from Amiga and Commodore 64, well, Commodore 64 and then Amiga. And then I got my first PC in 2000, really late actually, because I always had PCs at work rather than like having it at home because I never bothered to have them. But the interesting bit about this one is actually that it's kind of a misnomer. The idea of the turbo button, and you can read it up on Wikipedia as well, and a few people got it, and there's a wonderful, like if you go through the comments on that one, there's like a really deep dive on the stuff. The idea was that hardware was always fixed in terms of its features. Like on a Commodore 64, I had 64K of RAM. I had a 1.08 megahertz processor. On Amiga, I had different chipsets that do different things. So people actually wrote software, especially games, dedicated to that hardware. So the idea of a PC then was extensibility, that the PC could be upgraded and become faster. So these machines, the 386s and the 486s, were actually faster than the original PCs, which were 407 megahertz kind of thing. So all the games that were written for these actually would not run on these faster machines or would run too fast. So they would become unplayable. So to actually, the turbo button was a button to slow down the machine to actually backwards compatibility to play these old games. So that was the idea why that turbo button had to get in there, because the hardware accelerated faster than the software at that time. And I think that never happened again after that. So it feels like that you had to slow down your machine not to play the old things. And one of the comments in there that was absolutely fascinating to me, which I didn't know, is that Lotus 123, the tabular calculation thing that was before Excel, had a copy protection on the floppy disk. So basically, this was not on your hard drive, because the hard drives didn't exist. You actually loaded things from your floppy disk and then you played them, and later on with the CD drive. And it had a copy protection where it changed the order of the tracks of the floppy disk. So basically, instead of reading it sequentially, it had like a lookup table, and that was the copy protection, that it didn't know where it was doing it. And actually, the faster computer didn't bother with the copy protection, so people actually turned on the turbo button to actually use Lotus 123 without actually having to worry if it's a licensed copy or not licensed copy. So the speed of the computer allowed you to automatically crack the thing. So that was really fascinating to learn about that one. But it's great that these things are basically there. The other person that said like the speed display, 33 or 66 megahertz here, was not actually hardwired. So you could actually change that in software to actually make that display show whatever, not only those numbers. So people did like animations on that kind of stuff and played with the hardware that way. So it was interesting to see that these are in there, and these locks that were next to it, that key worked for every PC. I think there was like 5 different keys, and you can walk around the office and open them all. So when that was turned on, you weren't able to put a floppy disk in. You weren't able to use the computer that way. But yeah, it was a turbo button that was actually a slowdown button, and it's not like it puts like nitrous oxide into your machine and make it faster or something like that. Similar, I love this this app. It's basically an extension for Chrome that actually makes tabs that you don't use for a while actually collect dust, and then you can blow into your microphone and it goes away, and then actually when you use the tab again, it becomes like an active tab again. I mean, Edge that I'm using has this sleeping tabs feature that actually, if you roll over things, it tells you like this is sleeping, and it doesn't have any resources, and it doesn't use much memory kind of thing. When I worked on Firefox OS, I wanted that to do with apps. If you don't use them for a while, the icon would rust and flake and stuff, and then go away completely. Android does that now as well, or Google Android that I use. Like if you don't use the app for a long time, it actually revokes access to things for it until you turn it off again, which is, I think, a clever idea as well. But this is a really cute way of showing like how an extension can use like microphone as an in thing as well. It was interesting
How does it know? How does it know when you're doing? Because I thought, okay, love it. I mean, for a start, we like anything on here that's sort of creative and thinking outside the box. But is it just like a you can make any noise and it will get rid of them, or do you actually have to blow into it? Because how does he know?
I don't know. It would be interesting to analyze it. I mean, the source code is available, so you can. I would normally do it with a volume thing. That basically, if it's a high volume thing that goes away quickly, then I know it's going to be a blowing on it. I guess that would be the fastest or easiest way of doing it. But I don't know how they've done it. But it's a cute idea, I think. So kudos to that, and hopefully it's not going to turn out to be like malware in this kind of thing or whatever. So let's talk about a few tips and tricks. Dan, you've been talking about this because you had one time where you were inundated with notifications on macOS, right? And what was the issue there?
Yeah, I'd basically just let my computer go to sleep over the weekend, didn't think much of it, but I've got a hard drive plugged in, and I don't know why this hard drive sort of seems to, it doesn't even like unmount or anything, but it just constantly suggests that I've tried to like eject it. So I get all of these notifications that you can see, excuse me, I'll say that again, notifications. I get all of these notifications that you get on screen here. And I think I had about, I don't know, 300, something like that. And I thought, okay, I'll just click away. Okay, where's the close all? Hang on, there isn't. Okay, this is weird. Surely I can do this in, one click. And then I ended up doing the age-old thing of just Googling the really sort of basic question, how do I get rid of notifications, Mac OS, notifications all in one go? And I'm thinking, there's nothing on it, what? And then I come across this Reddit thread, and the top comment is the command that you'll need to use, and it's a terminal command, kill all notification center. And it turns out there just isn't a way to do it, at least not on this operating system. I think earlier operating systems, there was a clear all like there is on your iPhone, but they've gotten rid of it, which to me is madness. But Chris, we talked a little bit about the point of this, really. It's not so much the fact that it's a very small thing and that, okay, it's a little bit annoying, you have to use a terminal command. It's the fact that it's Apple that have seemingly... it almost is a bit like what AI does when it's building something. It builds a really cool feature and then you say, let's build something new, and it just forgets about the old one. And that's sort of what it seemingly has done, where they've added new features, they've brought in some great new things with new operating systems, and they've gotten rid of the actual user experience, usable, useful things that you used to have one button for. So now I have to do that every time I turn my computer on, including 10 minutes before this stream when it went to sleep and gave me loads of notifications. So yeah, how has that happened?
Or you turn off notifications for the apps that actually are flooding it. That would be the other option.
I think it's Finder though, so it's kind of anything to do with like any kind of external devices. It just won't, and I sort of feel a bit strange turning off everything to do with Finder, which is kind of that central command of your computer. It just feels like an oversight.
Have you ever clicked on Finder on your file and then right-click Get Info? If you do it once, that's fine. But if you accidentally do it for all files,
I
had it once that it was my whole screen was killing it. So the only action that I found that was killing Finder.
Yeah.
Like force quit.
The other thing, what I like Finder is that when you actually select a lot of stuff and you say like open it, it actually asks you, do you really want to open 450 files? So it actually got a security model for that one now. So I think that's pretty interesting that these things work out. I mean, the other thing is like the double click to rename rather than like double click to open. When you come from Windows and you go to Mac for the first time, you're like, what the hell? So Command O to open any file in Finder makes actually much more sense, because then you can actually define which ones it opens. But yeah, it's people keep saying that like Mac OS keeps innovating, but the Finder seems to be like this thing that they don't want to touch because they don't want to confuse people. But a lot of people keep saying like it's very much due to an upgrade. Then again, I don't know, maybe we're just old people that know about files. I guess a lot of people don't even know what files are. Like they're just basically using the cloud stuff and for everything, and the App Store and the Launchpad, and then they actually don't know, they've never opened Finder because they're just going through the video or audio apps to actually play content on their machine. I mean, I always went for the Finder or Explorer first and then Terminal to actually make it really fast.
Is that going to go away as well? Just the file structure? Because I think that we're maybe we're the generation in the middle. I think about my dad's generation. My dad's in his 70s. If I say to him, create a folder in your head, now drag another folder in, he doesn't have that kind of mental model. And equally, if I said to someone of, like my kids, a little bit older than my kid, she's 2, but someone who's sort of under 10 years old, they're probably not going to have it either because they've grown up with iPads, etc. And it does feel like maybe we were actually not the default, that maybe we're actually the exception now, having this file structure in our heads.
Yeah. And the limits as well. Like I remember when it's like HTML files compared to HTML files, because the first Macs only allowed for 3 letters in a file extension. So you could always see like where something was built just by the file name. That was interesting.
I forgot that.
Yeah. So I like this one as well. I'm a big fan of FFmpeg, and I do a lot of stuff with it, and I drive people like Dan crazy by knowing these things. But there is actually an AI tool for the command line that is called WTF FFmpeg that allows you to actually say like, okay, you do WTFF, convert my video AV to MP4 with no sound. And then it actually takes a local model, a local LLM model, and then it gives you the FFmpeg command, and you can execute it yes or no, and then you see it. It would be even better. There's another tool called VET that I saw the other day that actually executes bash commands, but not executes them, but actually tells you what would happen. So that would be another good idea to put those two together to make sure you're not actually starting to batch generate lots of videos or convert videos. But FFmpeg is like incredibly powerful. and one of my favorite things in computing. But it's really, really complex to learn about all the different flags and things you can set. So this is a really, really cool tool to get you started with FFmpeg on the command line, and you will not go back. I mean, there's Handbrake as well, which is a nice interface to it, but it's just really powerful to do that. And I think that's helpful to learn the syntax a bit as well. Now, Dan, I gave you Strudel, and I'm in Austria right now, so Strudel makes sense. And you were kind of blown away by that, right?
Genuinely, yeah. I mean, I think whenever I've seen these kind of so to give you some sort of background on what this is, some people will be familiar, some won't, with the kind of format of like MIDI, which is essentially data regarding instruments. It gives you the notes, how long the notes last, and then you can plug that into a virtual instrument. It will read the MIDI and it will play that instrument out loud. Now, that's effectively how it works when you're using any kind of digital instruments, you know, even at like the professional level. And it doesn't change when you're doing something like an 8-bit song. That's pretty much like the raw MIDI. So when I saw this, a tool that allows you to effectively write music with code, I wasn't that excited, because I thought, okay, well, the end result will be not very good, and it will probably be very MIDI, very 8-bit sounding, and so, you know, you're not really going to write a song with it. I was wrong, because that on the surface quite kind of complicated JavaScript based code that you see on the right hand side is how you would write a song with Strudel. And I had a go myself. I thought I'll maybe see if I could get a demo together. I'll be honest, I couldn't without it sounding like just really like undoing my point. It sounded like a child had made it. But what I was blown away by is when you look at that code, and maybe I'll just take you through line 5, you can see it sets some chords, and you've got there a B flat minor 9, and then you've got a F minor 9, and then you've got the length of the note being there's quarter notes, so there's going to be 4 of them played. Think of it like that. Now, as you go down that code, you can see them building the song. They've got the next stack of drums, and they've got on line 8, they've got like a bass drum. So you can start to see that the kind of very simple syntax of like BD, bass drum, SD, snare drum, and rim, so the rim of the snare drum. And so effectively you build the song by selecting sounds, you set the tempo for different instruments, how often you want them to be hit, and then you can even add, and this was the bit that really blew me away, it's not just MIDI. What they've done is they've actually added the sounds of the instrument on top. So you can get a slap bass, or you could get like a synth for like a dance song. But the bit that really blew me away was that they've added filters. And what I mean by that is things like in dance music, you'll have like an envelope. So if you imagine somebody, rather than going ba, they go wah, and they get like a swell. That's opening the envelope. That sort of thing you don't usually find with kind of these MIDI-based sound generators, especially when you're using code, because now that all has to use that filter, but you've actually kind of configured it with code. Absolutely blew me away. You can, if somebody knows music right now, I would suggest go to Strudel, so strudel.cc. If you're German or German speaking, you've actually got a German workshop in there as well. So useful for all of our European friends who speak German, and which is great considering the name. But I would just say pick up that code, and they've got a REPL there that you can just jump straight into, and you can use the example code. And I would say just start by changing things like the chords. If you know a little bit about music, just throw in some chords, and you can start to reverse engineer it. You can press play at the top, and it'll play the code that you've written. And I think you probably have got it there. I can, but I can tell you, Chris, by looking at that, you've got a bass drum, a hi-hat, and then you've got an open hi-hat, BDHHOH. So you really do start to kind of get to grips with it quite quickly. Writing it is a little bit tricky at the moment. I'm finding I'm getting lots of, you know, this sound doesn't exist and things like this, but I know that I'll get to grips with it. And there is a video to go with it where somebody's made a dance track, and that's the bit that really impressed me. It actually sounds good. And I say that because you don't have high hopes for these things. They're usually just to show what you can do with code. I don't know if we'll have sound.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen people do that live at conferences. Like there's like Earth to Abigail and people like that did that at the Half Stack event, and it was really cool to see that kind of stuff. The interesting bit would be now then do visualizations to turn it back into sheet music, because that could be done as well.
Yeah,
so,
it could. And you could generate it in loads of different ways. You know, you could generate it so that you could export it maybe so that you then use all of those files in your kind of Logic or Pro Tools or your VST, your sound, your IDE effectively for music. So it's like the fact that you can use that to just generate things, but then put the sounds onto other instruments if you wanted to. It's amazing. It really is. I don't know how somebody has. I mean, the syntax is complicated, so I can only imagine what it was like to build that with all of the sounds. It's really impressive.
Well, I guess having a complex syntax is normally easier to build, like making it easier to understand. I mean, I remember there's like Mario Composer. Remember that one where you can paint with like different turtles and stuff, and actually make songs and share it with other people on their was it Game Boy Advance, I think. Yeah, there were lots of interesting bits. But this is really interesting to see. Now we got Elio here, and it's about time to show us what we talked about when you got invited here, which is demo time. And yeah, can you tell us what it is and how you use it and why you've done it?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. It's actually funny with all the music. I didn't know it existed, although I saw it a couple of years ago at an event where they did it live. And back then I was thinking like a DJ becomes like a developer jockey instead of a disc jockey. Okay, but that said, demo time is one of the Visual Studio Code products that I've been developing for I think 2 years now. And the reason why is because I love to present at conferences, and most of the time when I'm at a conference, prepare the talk, I will do that talk maybe another time at another conference. And back then what I did was I wrote everything down in a script file, like it can be on my iPad or it could be just paper notes. And when I needed to go to another conference a couple of months later and do the same talk, it was like, oh, where are these notes? Okay, here. And this is what I need to do this and then and so on and so on. So I found myself doing the same old thing every now and then. And then I started to create snippets until a person came to me and he said like, hey, isn't there anything easier than that you can just pick up and go with the flow? I was like, okay, you brought me the idea. And that's where I thought like, hey, let me test out a Visual Studio, or let me try to create a Visual Studio Code extension that does it all for me. So this is my pitch deck that I mostly use at conferences or where I talk to people around demo time. So it's a way to present like a pro. What typically goes wrong during sessions, for instance, is the distractions, notifications, applications that are open. So what I like to do is I like to stay in one application so that I don't have to switch too many times. And distractions is something that is not good for you, but also for your audience, because you want to keep the audience at their attention to your session, to the content that you're talking about, and not to whatever you were having on your screen. So if you all of a sudden see the notifications from Mac OS popping up, like everyone is like, oh, that's funny, there was a WhatsApp open. Oh, damn, I accidentally forgot to set it on Not Disturb. So all these things, that are things that typically can go wrong. Same thing for the settings, like having good settings is font size 20, for instance, or having a light theme. And I'm right now using a dark theme, but if I'm going to show you what this is in code, like this is not readable for you. It's even not readable for me. Somebody without glasses can probably read it. But this is not something you want to show during a session. So what demo time, what you can do is prepare all that thing all in front or before your session. So you're going to set a set of default settings, and the moment you start presenting, you just click here, these are the settings that I want to start using, and then you can quickly move on to that part. Sorry. So better settings But it's more than that. Presentations can be stressful because we need to know a couple of things, and for sure if live coding is involved, because you don't want to accidentally do a typo. Like I think we've all been on stage, and I can really type well when I'm at home, but when I'm on stage, it's like it feels like the very first time that I'm typing a keyboard. Like, damn, where is all the letters? I need to look at it. And if you do a typo, most of the time somebody in the audience spotted it, but you didn't. And then you're like, damn, I don't want to take too much time of this. I want to continue, but still you want to make sure that everything is working fine because your demo is going to fail. And then you're thinking and you're not in the flow anymore. So that's also why demo time was there, so that you don't have to think about all these things and you can just continue on doing your thing, and that's pressing the next button, and you can just explain what you were trying to do with slides or with code. So demo time, Visual Studio Code extension. These days, you can script your demos and your presentations with JSON and YAML, and you don't even have to use these things anymore, because I'm going to show you right after how you can create these things. You can create slides. Anything that you can do within Visual Studio Code can be done within demo time. So there's a lot of actions that come out of the box. But if you say, hey, I have a command from Visual Studio Code that I want to use, like open a website, create a file, all these things, these are all available within Visual Studio Code. You can use all your commands as well, and you can just script them. The benefit is that you don't lose track of what you're actually doing. So if you want, and on the second screen, you can have a presenter view with all the steps that you're doing. Like, for instance, with PowerPoint as well, like you have the presenter view and you have the attendee view. You don't have to create any snippets anymore because everything is in one repo. And what I love about this as well is this repo, I can just make it available on GitHub, can give it to my attendees, and my attendees can just open it, clone it, and go through step by step at their own pace. So they see the same slides, they see the same demos, and they can play around with it. So that's also what I love to do. So let's give it a try. So what I do is I first start with creating an empty file. And I didn't do anything. It's my script that did it. So the only thing that I'm doing right now is pressing next on my keyboard, and it's going to type things for me. So right now it's typing me the code. And if you're doing presentation about code, and for instance, I want to highlight greet, some people just drag and drop or highlight that particular line. What I can do right now is say, hey, these lines, these are the lines that I want to focus on. Why? Because X, Y, Z. And the next part, oh, this is why I want to focus on these lines. And you draw the attention to that specific thing. At the top right here, you see two markers. You can use these two markers if you say, oh, I forgot that I need to talk about this. You can just highlight the line and do the same thing. You get the same kind of highlighting experience there as well. But if you script it, you can just press next on play. So not just code, it's anything. So what you just saw, it's a slide experience that I went from a desktop version over to a full screen version. So I ran a couple of scripts there, or actually some commands from Visual Studio Code. There is more. I can just say, hey, run me the terminal command. So over here, it ran tsc app ts. So I just said to my app or to my demo, I want to open a terminal, and this is what I want to type. I can do the same thing, like, hey, run this app, and this is what it does. So all of that is there. So it can be used for presentations, meaning slides, and slides are created in Markdown. So I love Markdown. I use SlideDev for a very long time. And that's also where it makes more sense to have the same kind of experience within Visual Studio Code. And the way how to create it is you write your Markdown file. It can include some styling. And then the moment it is done, it can show you the actual presentation or slide. So at the top, you will have your metadata about what it is. So it's the unnamed theme. There are a couple of themes that are available within demo time. And then you have a layout of the slides. There are also a couple of layouts available. And here I wanted to show you a background image. And this is the background image from WeAreDevelopers from the website. And then next is all of the code that you want to show. So I have a heading, I have the demo time URL, and then some styles for this particular slide. So it's only for that slide that these styles are applied to. You don't need to do that, but I wanted to make it look and feel like the actual WeAreDevelopers website. So that's it on the pitch side. So let's go back to what is actually running behind the scenes. So if you install it, this is what demo time is doing. So this is my actual script that I just ran. So I have a prepare. Prepare is just a backup of my settings. And at the end, I just reset all the settings to the same state as it was running before. So it resetted everything to use my dark theme. And then all of the things like opening the slide deck is here, the wrong settings, the stress, slide deck, and so on. All of that is scripted. Now, what does a script look like? You can hover over and you see the eye. And this is where the new configuration editor comes into play. So in the latest version, there's a new config editor. Before that, you needed to do everything in YAML or in JSON. There were a couple of people that were asking, hey, can we have a configuration editor? And I'll try to make it a little smaller. So what it is over here, every demo consists of some information, like a title of that particular demo. You can give icons, you can give notes, and so on. And then you can also say it consists of steps. A demo can contain many different steps, but they will all run by default sequentially. So for instance, if you want to create a file, write some content in it and do something else, that can all be in one demo go or in one step, so multiple steps. And then you create some actions over here. Let's me do a creation of a new file. Let's do sample GitHub code or Copilot. So here is a new file. We start empty. We create a new demo. And let's say create me or test out the chat. What I'm going to do is what I'm going to try to do is creating a visualization of, or no, I'm going not to create a visualization. I'm going to ask GitHub Copilot to do some things for me. So what I will do here is I will ask Copilot chats. So Ask Copilot chat is going to automatically open the Copilot chats from within the Visual Studio Code experience, and I can enter a message. Entering a message will automatically open the chat and then enter it straight away. In this case, I don't want to do it because I want to show that you can do it differently. So let's type the text manually, or not letting it manually type, but let's demo time type it for you. And let's say generate haiku or something about we are developers live. Let's see. So this is now going to type it. And what I can then also say is press enter. And I can save this. I can run it from here, or if I'm now going here, you can also see it in here. If I click this, it should start opening. Oh yeah, let's open. Oh. Let me open GitHub chat. Come on. Open GitHub chat. There we go. Accidentally used the wrong one. There we go. So it's going to create me one. And what I can then do as well is doing the same thing all over. And that's where you can just clone this. And instead of that, let's say that we are creating a haiku about demo going wrong, because my demo just went wrong because I accidentally took the wrong one. And then you can do the same thing. And here you see when I click this, it should open this chat. So let's do it again. It's automatically typing it for me. It's automatically pressing enter for me, and so on. So all of that can just be scripted. If you're live on stage, you don't have to think about these things anymore, because demo time will just do it for you. It gives you a lot more peace of mind. And as I said, you can share these kind of things like the repository to your audience and let them play with it. And for you, the only thing that you need to do is revert all the changes, clone it again for another conference, and you can go straight away. So that's actually what demo time is all about.
That's cool. It feels like Playwright, but for VS Code. And I can really see it as a good opportunity to get onboarding into a code environment, for example. Like basically, if you want to introduce people to your environment, people do like a lot of video casts on that, and there's like walkthrough scripts that you can have as well. Or people did a little bit like Automator on Mac before as well and recorded these kind of things, but it could be just done as a script, as an editable, and that way very portable format as well. I think one thing that I find interesting, because I used to write scripts for myself as well, where I copy and pasted code in, and then it looked like the machine was typing it, so I could be on stage, look, he never makes a mistake kind of stuff. But I found that with yours and also with others, I always see when somebody's faking it. Can you guess why?
Because I'm not typing?
No, because IntelliSense doesn't kick in.
Yeah, okay.
When you type, then IntelliSense offers you the auto-completion and stuff, and when you actually use the automated script to copy and paste it in, that doesn't happen.
Okay. Now, one of those things which is interesting, I also need to try it out, but there is like let me take a look at insert. There is a typing mode which is called hacker mode or hacker typer. So that way you can just press. I think it's going to kick in at that moment, because it's going at your own pace. So at that time, you just say press. It's going to enter all of those things. So at that time, I think it's going to insert or show you the IntelliSense and the highlighting and so on.
So, I mean, that's a lot of effort, and you put a lot of time into it. I see that you got sponsors on the page and stuff. Like, it's free now, is it? Or is it a hosted thing as well? Or
no, it's completely free. It runs within your Visual Studio Code environment. So it's there's no paid offering, because I think that, or I believe in this thing, which is a new way of presenting technical talks, workshops, and so on. And it should be as easy as possible for everyone to use. And yeah, I also believe in open source. So that's also why I made it available.
Does it work offline?
It's completely offline.
Yeah, that makes sense, I guess. Yeah, I love it. It's like it's a very interesting thing, and especially as somebody who worked on VS Code, it also shows me like how much of the thing can be automated in this. I mean, we did it for testing. Like we had scripts that actually automated VS Code to see what it does, but that you can tie in with it with an extension is just a very wonderful and powerful thing to do as well. Yeah, it's got to be, and I think it's just fair to say that when you actually use it, that you're actually using it when you're doing a slide talk, when you're giving a talk and you're like, I'm using demo time here, so I'm not the perfect coder. I mean, there's so many Instagram people that just never do a typo, and it just cracks me up. Like, no, that's not programming. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but if you're live on stage or doing a webcast, you have only that amount of minutes that you want to give as much information as possible. So you don't want to think about, oh, what can go wrong? Oh, damn, this went wrong. So now I need to do that to cover up and so on. So these things you don't want to think about. You just want to get the attention and the flow going.
So in terms of our audience and stuff here, what are you looking for? Are you looking for contributors? Are you looking for testers? Are you looking for people to play with it? What would make you most happy?
Oh, I'm more than happy to have feedback on it, people using it, seeing it at multiple conferences. I think one of the most amazing things happened last year, where it was used at OpenAI Dev Days.
Cool.
And all of a sudden there was a reaction, or I think it was a review. Like, I saw it in OpenAI Dev Days, and I was like, "Whoa, damn, this is big." Yeah, if you use it, if you give it a try, feedback is more than welcome. If you have ideas to make it better, even better. Yeah.
Cool. I found a nice theme for legacy code, because that one actually basically shows that it's really old code.
Look at that word button. That uppercase button is stressing me out. How are they teased? It's like Boucon. On that note, actually, I will say the demo time UI is beautiful. Really liking that landing page as well. It's just when I came across it, I know it's always like you never actually know if the product then is going to live up to it, but yeah, it does. I think the landing page is it looks like it's going to feel really nice to use. So yeah, it's great.
It has a lot of updates over the time. So and credits to the Starlight and Astro team there. So
cool. Well, I mean, we're out of time. It was great to have you around here, Elio Struyf, and demo time. Give it a go. Dan, any last words from you? Any last words from you, Elio? Let's start with Elio. Any last words you have for our audience before they send off?
I would love to thank you both to have this opportunity to show it and to have me on stage here. So thank you all.
Cool.
Oh, I'd love it. And in a less wholesome, but more just if anybody can solve the problem of, if anyone knows that if there is a way of getting rid of those notifications, there's your challenge. I don't know what the prize is. I don't think we've got one, but we'll just give you a shout out if you can give us a clever way of getting rid of all the notifications without using Terminal.
Cool. I want to get rid of a misconception. People say a T-shirt is because it's the shape of a T. It's short for a Tyrannosaurus Rex shirt because it's got short arms.
Oh, that's a good one, actually, Chris. I like that. I like that. We've even got our producer reacting in the chat, being like, "Ow, that hurts."
And with that, back to my dad lunch. And I thank very much for listening and watching. We see you next Wednesday, where we're going to be talking to Joanna Perker, and she was on stage at the Congress as well and talked about games and stuff. And I'm really looking forward to this one as well, because she's a very exciting person and does some really cool stuff. And she's a professor, not like a Harry Potter professor where everybody can call themselves professor, but a real one. So that's pretty amazing. So thanks again, Elio. All the best wishes to Antwerp. And if you got any diamonds lying around that you don't need, please send them over. And that was it from the live show today. Bye-bye.
Bye.